Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here and taking some time to learn more about this funding opportunity that we have here with Olympic Community of Health. Um, Not sure if anybody else is going to be joining, so we'll go ahead and get started since you all were so prompt. I'm just going to shut my door real quick. For those of you who I don't know, my name is Celeste Schoenthaler, and I'm the executive director here with Olympic Community of Health. And we have a new funding opportunity out. So if you're here to talk about this request for proposals, then you're in the right place. As for how we'll use this time today, I'm going to just quickly walk through the RFP document. And I want to leave as much time as possible to hear questions from you all so that you feel really clear about this funding opportunity and so that you can write us an excellent proposal. So the funding announcement is on our Olympic Community of Health webpage. We've got a little bit of information here, including the link to the overview and instructions, and just a little bit of information about the deadline. So this is the request for proposals. In a nutshell, we are looking to contract with one vendor that is either in our three-county region of Kitsap, Clallam, and Jefferson, or external to that, to conduct some conversations, some focus groups to gather data, insights, and evaluation findings regarding how we are doing with our communication strategies around our new service called Olympic Connect. We are specifically interested in having conversations with what is called the Prime Age Employment Group, which is a term used to define people who are between the ages of 25 and 54 who are either unemployed or underemployed. And for the purposes of this opportunity, gainful employment is considered to be $26 an hour or higher. We have worked with a marketing firm to create communications and marketing strategies to promote Olympic Connect. And we'd like to have conversations with this population to understand how we're doing with that communication, to learn how we can better adapt to best meet the needs of this important population that we're trying to reach through Olympic Connect. Olympic Connect is a community care hub of Washington that connects people on the Olympic and Kitsap Peninsulas to services they need to thrive. We do this through a cadre of community-based workers or trusted helpers who provide community members with one-on-one support so that they can work to achieve their health and life goals, potentially including good job attainment. We connect people to local resources like healthcare, job training, food assistance, childcare, housing, and more. And we provided the URL for our Olympic Connect website where you can learn more about the work we do with Olympic Connect. So in terms of the nitty gritty, we have up to $200,000 set aside for this work. And the intention is to meet these objectives through this funding opportunity. So identify ways that we can better communicate with this population about Olympic Connect, better understand the top social needs and barriers faced by this population, learn how our current messaging is or is not resonating with the group, how we can better communicate with this population, including channels and locations, trusted messengers, and communication strategies, and understand what the communication barriers are that exist with this population. So maybe they don't have internet access or computer access, or there's some other reason why maybe it's hard for them to connect with our service. And then learn how to best tailor messaging strategies so that we can best serve this group. We've outlined a scope of work here. So once under contract, we will do a deeper overview of Olympic Connect. work with the contractor on developing the focus groups, including an interview script and questions and things like that. We will be asking the contractor to identify ways to recruit participants to focus groups, including an incentive model to encourage participation, so a stipend or food or something like that. To actually conduct the focus groups, we'd like to see at least about 5 focus groups sessions per county, so Kitsap, Clallam, and Jefferson. And we're picturing these as being fairly small groups. And our interest is in prioritizing in-person conversations over virtual conversations. We're okay with a mix, but we'd like to see an emphasis placed on the in-person opportunities. We want to ensure that that group not only is within that target age group and job status, but that they are also diverse in the ways identified here. We will ask the vendor to analyze the data gathered during the focus groups and then provide a report and recommendation to Olympic Community of Health so we know how to move forward based on what was learned in the focus groups. So we're seeking a contractor who has strong skills in building trust, ideally some experience in qualitative evaluation, some knowledge of our region, and just general qualifications and some previous work. In terms of eligibility, the successful contractor will be a current legal entity and can adhere to federal procurement standards and methods. There's some other information here that we're happy to answer more questions about, but basically the bottom line is that there aren't a lot of restrictions as to who can apply and be eligible for this funding. My staff here at OCH will support this work all along. We will have regular communication with the vendor to ensure alignment and progress made on the deliverables. We are here to provide context and background information about Olympic Connect. We will want to collaborate with the vendor to help with development of interview questions, and we will approve the final facilitator guide before focus groups start happening. Like I said, we have a $200,000 up to budget for this, and we're asking during the proposal phase to submit a budget in Microsoft Excel to include all of the relevant costs so we can help understand how you came up with the costs for the project as part of our evaluation. We did want to share that this is a braided funding opportunity. So there are 2 different funding sources that are paying for this project. One is a direct federal contract that we have with the Economic Development Administration. And then we have some board designated funds that are paying for a small portion. And that portion is allowing us to do this work in Kitsap as well as Jefferson and Clallam counties. We've outlined the timeline here. So we're at the June 11th date here. My team will be updating a frequently asked questions document, including questions that come up today, and if you submit any others via email. Proposals are due on the 24th by 5 p.m., and then we will notify you of your status about the proposal by July 10th. And we're hoping to be under contract sometime in September. The contract for the scope will start in September, and we will work with the contractor to come up with a negotiated end date. We're picturing sometime probably in the spring of 2026 would probably be the end of this kind of project, but we'll work closely with the contractor to make sure that aligns with the proposal submitted. We outline here our scoring and evaluation criteria that we'll be using when we review applications. We will, as applications come in, we will conduct a technical review to make sure all of the elements are in place, and we will connect back with you if we need more information. And then our staff will serve as the reviewers for these proposals, and we will be looking at these elements. So the qualifications of the proposer, their content and subject matter expertise, the approach and plan, collaboration, equity, and innovation, and finally the budget. And so there are up to 60 points available for each proposal. And we will be making decisions based on the written proposal and budget, along with our organizational and regional needs. In terms of technical assistance, so after today, we will have, we already have the FAQ document online, but we will update that based on the questions that come in today and any other questions that come in via email. We are asking that all questions come to our OCH@olympic.ch.org email address. Unfortunately, we're not able to take separate calls or set up different times to talk about this because it is competitive. So we're asking for all questions to come in via email. We do have some information about what it will look like to contract with us. We will, do our due diligence to ensure that the contractor is not presently debarred, suspended, proposed for debarment, or declared ineligible. We will ask for proof of liability insurance coverage, a current W-9, and we will ask you to fill out an electronic payment form required by our bank, and we make all payments electronically. This is also a cost reimbursement model. So as the contractor incurs expenses, you'll send us invoices based on those expenses, and we will reimburse for those in alignment with the final scope and budget. The proposal is just 2 documents that you'll submit to us. One is a completed written proposal. The format of that is up to you, and the outline of that is up to you. We ask that be submitted as a PDF attachment, and then the budget, we ask for that to be submitted as a separate Microsoft Excel document. And again, the deadline is no later than 5 p.m. on June 24th, and you'll submit both of those documents to our email, and we will notify applicants by July 10th of their standing for this. So I will stop there and see what questions you all have about this. Because we know we didn't get it right when we wrote this out, so you're going to tell us what we did that was unclear.
I have a couple questions, Celeste.
Hey, Erin.
Hi, nice to see you. So one of my questions is, my read on this from the RFP is that you really want sort of feedback that would allow for recommendations on what your communication strategy should be rather than communication materials and a campaign itself. But I just wanted to be clear if I was correct in that. Are you hoping the contractor will create communication materials or more give recommendations for future communication campaigns?
Recommendations.
Okay.
Yes, that's a good question. Yeah.
And then I'm also making the assumption that you're having a hard time reaching the prime age employment group, that's one of the reasons behind releasing this RFP. But is that accurate? Is this a group that you're struggling to reach, or do you know whether you're reaching them, or sort of, what inspired the RFP?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are a couple of things. So OCH has an award with the Economic Development Administration at the federal level. It's an award that is called Recompete, if you've heard about that. And the whole intent behind the Recompete funding, the legislation behind that is post-COVID rebuilding of local economies specific to this prime age employment group. So it's a priority population for the Economic Development Administration, and a group. I'm struggling with how to answer your question if we're having a hard time reaching them. I think we don't know that quite yet. It's a new population of focus for us, and we, through the Recompete grant, it's very important that we are successfully reaching that population. And so we wanted to, take some time to talk with that group to better understand to better understand if we are reaching them, if we are, how is our messaging resonating, what would stop somebody from contacting Olympic Connect, what would encourage somebody to contact Olympic Connect. So part of it is that they're a little bit of a new population for us.
Great, that makes sense.
Okay.
I have two more questions if that's okay. They're quick.
Totally. Yeah, go for it.
You had said you wanted to contract with one contractor. I assume that that means that you only want to have a contract with one person. Are you okay with somebody putting together a proposal that has like two people coming together to partner?
Yes, yeah. We only want to do one contract, but the group that we contract with is welcome to subcontract out.
Great. And then my last question is, I believe in the RFP it said timeline was sort of up for negotiation, but I wasn't sure if there were any decision-making things that were coming up or sort of things on your timeline that the contractor should keep into consideration in terms of thinking through how long the overall process should be and sort of when you need results by.
I think we are hoping to have the final report by sometime in the spring of 2026.
Great, thanks. That's all for me, or at least all for now.
I was gonna say, don't say forever.
Yeah, every time I say it's my last question, it's never my last question.
That's
So,
fair. That's fair. Thanks, Erin.
Hi there. I have a couple of questions, if I may.
Yeah, hi, Megan.
Hi, great to see you. So first question, I'm curious, given OCH's partnership with Seven Tribes as sovereign nations, I'm curious to hear a little bit about your expectations for Native participation or tribal engagement as a part of this project, and whether there's a hope to intentionally engage Native participants or tribal communities, or if perhaps that engagement is more appropriate through other channels or opportunities.
Yeah, no, we'd love to hear from tribal members for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks so much. And then second question for you. I know that the RFP specifically had an even breakup of 5 focus groups per county. But knowing that Kitsap County has a much or a larger population, I'm curious if you are married to 5 per county equally, or if you have any interest in spreading that in a different way, given larger resident makeup.
Yeah, I mean, I think we say approximately 5 focus group sessions per county here. Yeah, I think we're super open to hearing other ways to shake that out. I think we just want to make sure that we're hearing from, a good amount of people in all 3 counties. We also wouldn't want Jefferson County to get, less emphasis because they're smaller.
They're smaller. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally understand. Thank you. And
Yeah.
actually, I'll have one more question. And I know you alluded to this earlier, so forgive me if I'm being redundant, but I know that you had noted a specific interest in those in-person focus groups and using virtual focus groups sparingly. I'd
Yeah.
love to hear a little bit of thought behind that, if possible. And I'm asking only because knowing that this audience is often made up of folks that have contract jobs or shift schedules or transportation barriers. We love getting in-person insights, of course, but I'm curious to hear a bit about that if you're able to share more.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few reasons. One is that we are a pretty rural region and not everybody has good access to the internet or a computer. So in person is a way to remove that barrier. I think when we're thinking about a really representative sample of this age group and people who are un or underemployed, we're also mindful that uh, they may not have all of the tools necessary in order to hop online. And we also know that it's not always a very comfortable experience for people to share vulnerable information, in a virtual setting. So again, we're not opposed to having some virtual sessions. We just wanted to place an emphasis on having people connect in person. I think we're just kind of an in-person region in general. We tend to do. We're a very community-driven region. You know, a lot of us know our neighbors pretty well, and so having those conversations in person just feels better. But we're not opposed to having some virtually.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I
On the
appreciate
wrong
that.
place there. Yeah, prioritizing in person is what we say. So,
Thank you so much.
yeah, thanks, Megan.
That's it for me for now.
Okay.
Celeste, I think I have one.
Hi, Denise.
Hi. I know you highlighted the supporting documentation. Will you need that as part of like the original RFP submission, or it's once awarded, then you'll need those
Once
supporting
awards.
documents?
Yeah. Once we get to once we make our decisions, we will communicate with everybody who submitted a proposal, and we will provide an award letter to the entity that is going to win the contract. And that award letter will outline the initial set of documents that we'll need in order to move forward to the contracting phase. What other questions do you all have?
Hi there. Hi.
Hi, Erica.
Hi, nice to see you. I was wondering, you had mentioned that there were individual people that worked with this population. Would they be able to assist with some of the recruitment for the focus groups? I know sometimes the biggest challenge is getting the recruitment down or getting the right amount of participants. Would they be able to put us in touch, or would your organization be able to assist with that process of recruitment?
Yeah, we're really hoping that the entity that we contract with can take the lead on participant recruitment. If there are some, I would say, like light touch ways that our organization can help, like we have an e-newsletter that goes out to like organizations and tribes across the region who have been our partners in this work. Like you said, we have the connection to the community-based workers, those trusted helpers. We can ask them to help get the word out, but I think our primary interest in terms of participant recruitment is through the contractor.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Anything else coming up for you all? Okay, well, that's all we had for today. I'm happy to stay on the line if anybody wants to make any last minute questions. I don't want to hang up too early, but I don't want to just stare at each other on Zoom either. So, Erin, did you have another question? Go ahead.
No, I just came on because I wanted to make sure I showed my face before we said goodbye. But I know as soon as we say goodbye, we'll all have more questions. But
okay,
that's
well,
all I had in
OCH@olympic.org, and we're pretty responsive. And any questions that come in via email, we will also post on the FAQ, so you'll be able to see what others have asked as well. So, and we will post the recording from today on the FAQ as well in just a couple of days.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your day. Take care, and we look forward to seeing your excellent proposals.
Thank you.
Thank you, Celeste.
Thanks so much.